This is my hearty mushroom ramen recipe. It is delicious. Let's get cooking. I am super excited about this. Hello fellow vegan eaters, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Megan and I post stylish, sustainable living tips on YouTube every week, including like tonight's vegan recipe tutorial. I absolutely love ramen. My husband and I have traveled to Japan and had some amazing food memories all around ramen. And so when we decided to become at-home vegans, I wanted to adapt it. It was this super special meal for us and I just believed that I could make a good version. One of the things that I love so much about meat-based ramens is how much flavor is in the broth. That's really where most of the kind of like intense meaty flavors come from. And so I knew that was gonna be the biggest challenge when adapting it to a vegan recipe. How could I get something really intense flavored? What I decided to do was do some prep work the day before I was gonna cook this recipe to really develop those flavors in a broth. Now I know preparing a day ahead of time is a lot of work for a lot of people, but I try to make it as easy as possible by doing this low food waste hack. We use a lot of mushrooms and every time that we use them, we take the stems off and that's a lot of food waste. So what we do is we save them all in a special mushroom bag in our freezer. So the day before I want to eat this recipe, I pull my bag of mushrooms out of the freezer, pour a bunch of water over it, and then let it cook away. It does have a pretty strong smell, I'm not gonna lie. When you wake up, especially if you do it overnight, your house is gonna smell like mushrooms until you cook again. So just be prepared for that. Maybe this isn't the best recipe when you're about to have guests coming over. The work always pays off because it is just so yummy. Let's get cooking. Hello from voiceover Megan. So the first thing to start with this ramen is you need to roast some garlic. If you don't know how to do that, it's really easy. Cut the tops off so that each clove of garlic is exposed to the heat. Wrap it in tin foil, top it with a little bit of olive oil, and cover it completely like this. Put it in the oven and roast it for approximately 1 hour. It should come out looking nice and golden brown like this. While the garlic is roasting, you can go ahead and get started on prepping the rest of your ingredients for this hearty mushroom ramen. First, cut up a mixture of mushrooms. I used brown and oyster mushrooms. You'll also want to get your broth boiling. Pour in your mushroom stock. If there's any sediment on the bottom of your bowl, feel free to discard that. Mushrooms taste best when they are hard seared. I typically use my cast iron on a high heat. Mushrooms don't like to be crowded in the pan, so do leave a little bit of space, even if this means you need to cook them in batches. Once the mushrooms are done, take them out of the pan and put them in a bowl set aside until we need them later in the recipe. For this recipe, you'll need a mixture of Asian ingredients such as ginger, white miso paste, soy sauce, sriracha or hot sauce if you like it spicy, mirin, sesame oil. Next, you'll want to dice up some onions and put those into the pan where you just cooked the mushrooms. Saute together your white onions and green onions. After they've been in there for a few minutes and are starting to get fragrant, add your garlic and ginger. You can also add your sesame oil at this time if things are starting to stick on the bottom of your pan. This will loosen it up nicely. Your kitchen should be smelling really good. After all of that has been sauteing together for approximately 5 to 10 minutes, until it gets a nice caramelization like you see here, then you're ready to add your miso paste. You'll essentially want to deglaze your pan with the miso paste. It's going to release a nice kind of oil and caramelization as well as some fragrances. So saute it together with the onions for like 2 minutes or so, and then put that entire mixture into the boiling soup broth. You can also add in half of your roasted garlic at this point, as well as half of your mushrooms. Bring all of that together in a nice boil. It's gonna smell great in your kitchen, and let it boil away for approximately 30 minutes. During that time, I typically get my toppings ready. For me, ramen is all about the toppings. You need good toppings when it comes to ramen. Arguably one of the best parts of ramen is the mixture of different toppings that you can find on it. For me, I always go with roasted garlic, raw green onions, some of those charred mushrooms that we made earlier, some black sesame, and then a slightly braised bok choy. I just saute my bok choy lightly in some sesame oil, maybe add some white sesame seeds if I have them. While the soup is all boiling together, it's a good time to sort of test the flavors and see what you might need to add more of. For me, this is typically where I might add in more salt or more mirin. You don't want to put too much soy or salt at the beginning of the recipe, especially with soup, because it can reduce down and become overly salty. Mirin is a nice soft flavor, and it really, in my opinion, brings it all together when it comes to ramen. Once your broth is tasting really good, it's time to cook your ramen noodles. These are quick cooking noodles, so you just need to put them in once you're kind of feeling good about where the broth is at. Bring the noodles to a boil, let them cook for approximately maybe like 5 minutes until they're soft and tender. These types of noodles do release a lot of proteins, so be careful that it doesn't boil over. Traditionally in ramen, it is a pretty brothy soup, so you want to leave it probably like 40% noodles, 60% broth, if not less, and then pour however much broth you prefer over the top. You can see here we have really nice big ramen bowls. This was actually the whole reason we bought these bowls, was to eat ramen out of. We fill up quite a lot of broth to noodles, but you can do whatever you prefer. And then it's time to add all of your toppings. I just assemble my toppings together on top of the bed of noodles that I laid out in the bowl. I put my bok choy on there, then I make a nice little pile of mushrooms, add my roasted garlic in a nice big chunk. Oh, look at this ramen. It's just sexy with all these toppings. Put those green onions and black sesame seeds on there, and this beautiful bowl is ready to go. How good do these look? Oh my gosh, these look super professional, and these are super vegan. Oh my god, that was so good. That was so good. I hope you guys make it. I love that dish so much. Please comment below if you do make it. I love it because it's one of my favorites.